before you took your first breath, before you opened your eyes, before anyone had chosen your name. The broad strokes of your personality were already written, not by your parents, not by your culture, not by anything that had happened to you, because nothing had happened to you yet. They were drawn by a genetic lottery you never entered. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. It should, because you've spent your entire life assuming you're the author of who you are. But the research, decades of it, says something stranger, something most people never sit with long enough to actually feel. You are, in large part, a first draft you never wrote. Here's the story most of us carry around. You were born blank, a clean slate. Your parents shaped you, your school shaped you, your friendships, your heartbreaks, your choices, all of it sculpted you into the person sitting here right now. It's a beautiful idea. Psychologists call it the blank slate hypothesis, and for most of the 20th century, it was basically gospel. Behaviorists like B.F. Skinner built entire careers on it. Give me any child, he said, and I can shape him into anything. Doctor, lawyer, thief. And we loved that idea. Because for us it meant we were in control. If everything is environment, then everything is fixable. Bad childhood, go to therapy, bad habits, read a book, bad personality, just try harder. You know, the classic strategy of arguing with yourself in the shower and expecting to win. But here's what Skinner never explained. If environment is everything, if parents and culture and experience write the whole story, then why are siblings so different? Same house, same parents, same dinner table arguments about whose turn it is to load the dishwasher, and yet one sibling becomes an accountant who vacations in the same spot every year, and the other one quits law school to build boats in Portugal. Same environment, completely different people. The blank slate has a crack in it, and what's behind that crack is far more interesting than the slate itself ever was. In 1979, a psychologist named Thomas Bouchard at the University of Minnesota got a phone call that would change behavioral genetics forever. Two men, Jim Lewis and Jim Springer, had just discovered they were identical twins, separated at birth, raised by different families in different towns in Ohio. They'd found each other at age 39, and the similarities were, honestly, a little ridiculous. Both named Jim by their adoptive parents. Both married women named Linda. Both divorced and remarried women named Betty. Both had sons, one named James Allen, the other, yes, good guess, James Allen. Both had been volunteer firefighters. Both drove the same model of Chevrolet. Both bit their fingernails. Both built white benches around trees in their backyards. Nobody teaches you to build a white bench around a tree. That's not in any parenting book. Bouchard launched the Minnesota study of twins reared apart, the largest twin study ever conducted. Over 20 years, he brought in more than 100 pairs of identical twins who had been separated at birth and raised in completely different environments. The findings shook personality psychology to its foundation. Identical twins raised apart were almost as similar in personality as identical twins raised together. The Ocean model, that stands for the Big Five personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, is what psychologists use to map human personality. Bouchard's data showed heritability estimates between 40 and 60% for every single one, meaning roughly half of who you are. Your tendency toward anxiety or calm, your openness to new experience, your comfort with chaos or need for order, was baked in before you were born to this life of yours. But it wasn't just Bouchard. Developmental psychologist Jerome Kagan at Harvard spent decades studying temperament in infants. He'd expose 4-month-old babies to new stimuli, mobiles, voices, smells, and then sort them into categories. Some babies kicked and screamed, being high reactive. Others just stared, calm as monks at a buffet. Kagan tracked those babies for years, the high reactive infants, the ones with elevated amygdala reactivity, the ones whose threat detectors fired at every unfamiliar sound, grew into cautious, anxious, introverted teenagers. The calm babies, on the other hand, became confident, outgoing adolescents. 4 months old, no trauma, no parenting style, no culture, just genetics expressing a preference. And the genetics are getting specific. The serotonin transporter gene, 5-HTTLPR, comes in short and long variants. The short version is linked to higher neuroticism, greater stress sensitivity, and stronger amygdala responses to negative stimuli. One variant of the DRD4 gene, a dopamine receptor, makes the brain harder to satisfy. People who carry it crave novelty, new risks, new places, new everything. Stability bores them. Then there is MAOA, sometimes called the warrior gene. Lower activity variants are associated with higher aggression, but only when combined with childhood stress, which brings us to the real story. Because it was never nature versus nurture. It was always nature entangled with nurture. Gene-environment interaction, GXE, means your genes don't dictate behavior. They set the range, they build the instrument, but the music in the song depends on what happens next. Think of it like this. Epigenetics, the system that turns genes on and off without changing the DNA itself, works like a mixing board in a recording studio. The tracks were already laid down at conception, but which ones get turned up, which get muted, which get distorted by feedback? That depends on the room you play them in. And here's the part that unsettles researchers most. The Dunedin Study in New Zealand tracked over 1,000 people from age 3 to 45. Psychologists assessed each child's temperament at 3 years old, just watching them play in a room for a short period of time. Reserved, well-adjusted, inhibited, or under-controlled. Those categories predicted adult personality, employment patterns, relationship stability, and even criminal behavior 42 years later. A 20-minute observation of a 3-year-old. And it held. Now, before you spiral into determinism, and I can feel some of you already there, Walter Mischel, the psychologist famous for the marshmallow test, spent decades arguing that personality isn't as fixed as it looks. He said our behavior shifts dramatically based on context. You're not the same person at work and at a barbecue, and he was right, partly. Your behavior changes. Your temperament doesn't. Set point theory of personality suggests you have a baseline, a default emotional and behavioral setting that you orbit around your entire life. Events push you away from it. You swing. You stretch, but you come back. It's like those inflatable punching bags you had as a kid. You knock it over, it bounces right back up. Same face, same annoying smile. So what do you do with this? You stop fighting the blueprint and start reading it. Neuroplasticity is real. Your brain rewires itself constantly, especially the prefrontal cortex, which doesn't fully develop until your mid-20s. You can change, but change is renovation, not demolition. You are remodeling a house you didn't build. Your temperament is the house, the foundation, the load-bearing walls, the ceiling height. Your character is what you do with it, where you put the furniture, which rooms you spend time in, whether you open the windows or sit in the dark. Some people got a cozy cottage. Some people got a warehouse with no insulation and a mysterious stain on the ceiling. You work with what you've got. The non-shared environment, the random, unrepeatable micro-events that even siblings raised together don't share, matters more than almost anyone realizes. A teacher who believed in you in 4th grade. A conversation you overheard at 13. The friend who dared you to audition. These aren't noise. They're the signals that activated specific genes at specific moments, and no one else got exactly that combination. You are not a copy. You are a unique interaction between a genetic blueprint and a life that could only have been yours. But here's the question I can't stop thinking about. If your temperament was set before you took your first breath, if your genes built the instrument before you ever played a note, if a 20-minute observation at age 3 can predict who you'll be at 45, then when you say, I chose to be this way, well, what exactly did you choose?